Oregon wins big. Wasn't perfect, and I'm not surprised.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view post-Oregon 34-13 win over UCLA. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. This episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Yeah, that's right. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. Defense looks great. We'll talk about them later. T-Fer goes down, does not return. I have thoughts on that in the third segment on today's show, including our old friend Bryan Addison. So, Oregon wins the game, 34-13. I predicted 38-10, meaning my score predictions are 0-4 against the spread in Oregon games this year. Who sponsored this show? FanDuel. Make of that whatever you will. But this was not the best game in the world for Oregon. It was certainly not the worst. I think Oregon fans should feel solidly confident about this game. If I was giving this a Dave Portnoy pizza review, it'd be like a 7-1. Like, it's good. It's a good game. It's good that you can win by 20 plus points on the road and not play great football all the time. And I mentioned this on, I think it was Friday's show, going into this game, that I thought there might be a Stanford farm factor here. And it's absolutely what we saw. In the second half, Oregon had no juice. They had no life. You know why? Because they were up 28-3 late in the first half. Then they threw a deflating pick six, which I'll talk about in just a sec. And then that kind of took the wind out of their sails. And then in the second half, they were still just better than UCLA. I feel good about this performance. I really do. I don't feel great. I'm not saying it was the best thing that could have happened. Oregon could have blown this open and gotten Austin Novosad, who came in as the backup instead of Dante Moore. I don't think we should read too much into that, by the way. Could have gotten him an opportunity to actually throw the football, but they didn't. And every game isn't going to work out that way. It's all right. It's okay. I'm not sweating about, well, UCLA made a comeback. No, Oregon shot themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in the foot a couple of times. They had too many penalties. How many penalty yards did they end up with in this game? 6 for 49. That's not even as bad as it felt. There were some costly penalties there at moments, but Ethan Garbers goes 12 of 20 for 118 and 2 picks. I'll talk about the defense more later, but the offense comes out and they're rolling and everything's great. And then you get a big lead and they got comfortable. They got complacent, which is not what you want in a football team. But if you're looking at this game and saying, man, you can't play that way against Ohio State, zero shot that game plays out against Ohio State, where you get a big lead and then you've got no juice from the crowd. Should you be able to BYOE, bring your own energy? Yeah, of course. A lot easier said than done. I should be able to make more putts than I do. Read it correctly, pick a spot, hit it there, keep your head down. It sounds simple. It's not. So I think for Oregon, this is a good game. Good game. Not a great game. Not as good as the Oregon State game, but solidly, I jumped towards the second best performance of the year, which it probably was. Boise State, though, looks very good. They might go 11-1 with their only loss being to Oregon. That is a real possibility. They blasted Washington State, who's a good team and should have been ranked. And Boise State, Ashton Genty's crazy. So I think Oregon did well in this game. Solidly well. Wasn't a good second half. I'm not spinning that into, oh, the second half was fine. Like, no, you scored one touchdown in the second half. You should have been able to do more than that. Offensive line lost a little bit of juice. Oregon, by the end of the game, averaging 4.3 yards a carry. Would have liked for that number to be higher. It was 7.5 against Oregon State. I thought they could get over 6 against UCLA. So the running game definitely underperformed a little bit. It felt to me like there was a stretch in the third quarter where Oregon was almost trying to run out the game after Gabriel threw the pick six, and that like they were just getting a little conservative, not throwing it down the field, and a lot of screen passes today. Marcus Arroyo would be proud. I think Oregon just kind of went out and they just won the football game. At the end of the day, you look up, they won by 21. I swear, if Oregon gets killed because Atticus Sappington misses an extra point, I am going to consider resigning as the host of this show. Now, he's missed 2 extra points. It could have cost him against Boise State, but he made the field goal, of course. But he missed a field goal late in the game, which I don't think mattered for the spread because it was like 24.5 or so. It turns out Vegas is sharp once again, but the Dillon Gabriel interception is where this game really flipped. Oregon was completely in control, 28-3. I got a lot of different score predictions from people, via the Locked On Ducks Insider program or on Twitter, wherever. And people said, I think 52-14, 49-10, 48-6. Like, it was all in that sort of range. Oregon was one play away from getting there. And you know what happened? Gabriel made a dumb decision. Tez Johnson fell down, and Bryan Addison ran it the other way with 15 seconds left in the half. That's a bad decision from Dillon Gabriel. It's the worst decision he's made all year. Jorgie was on the show earlier this week and said correctly that Gabriel hasn't put the ball in harm's way. Even if Tez Johnson doesn't fall down, the play is designed to go inside. He's running a stacked receiver concept where he's the underneath guy and he goes out and pivots back in. But Gabriel had a little pressure, had to flush out to his right and couldn't hit Tez when he was open, but then didn't see the safety. Like, even if you assume that Tez Johnson keeps his feet in a parallel universe, that's not a good decision. Gabriel's a veteran. He's got to know better. End of the half, you're just trying to get there with a 28-3 lead, 31-3. Hey, you're feeling great. And suddenly everything feels very, very different. So Gabriel made a bad play. He made a bad read, bad decision. Bo Nix made him too. Bo Nix in the red zone against Washington last year. Like, I'm not out on Gabriel because he threw a pick six. Like, okay, he made a mistake. It wasn't a good one. And guess what? It doesn't end up costing Oregon in any way, shape, or form. Bo Nix made a couple of bad reads against Washington last year. He had Trayshawn Holden wide open for a touchdown. He threw the back shoulder to Troy Franklin, incomplete on 4th, the second time they went for it. Like, guys make bad reads. They make mistakes. That's okay. You need to not allow those to compound into game-altering plays. You need to not allow those to hurt you over the course of the season or repeat. I'm sure Lanning, I'm recording before he's spoken in his post-game presser, I'm sure he's not going to be happy with the second half of play. He shouldn't be. It wasn't a good half of football. But if you play a dominant first half for the most part until one singular play, you can get away with that sort of stuff. Oregon was the better team. I talked about it all week on the show, and I think it was a consensus opinion, even from Zach Anderson-Yoxheimer of Locked On UCLA, that, Oregon's just better across the board. And that's what we saw. Oregon is just a much better football team because they played probably a B game, because you're A in the first half. You probably get knocked down to a B plus with the pick six, and then the second half is like a C. Like, it's really good defensively, but it's not good offensively, so it's probably about a C. B plus and a C averages to a B minus, roughly, somewhere in that sort of range. Like, Oregon played its B minus game and won by 20 points on the road. It was a solid performance. Nothing wrong with it, nothing great with it. Not every game is going to look like Oregon State. That's why we appreciate the Oregon State days. Now Oregon's got to turn around and get ready for Michigan State on Friday. Let me know your thoughts and what you thought watching the game, how you felt and everything in the YouTube comments. Hit me up on X. Become a Locked On Ducks insider. Get priority access, free 14-day trial. Link in the description below. Oregon's defense was awesome. Better in the offense in this game on the whole because it played well for 4 quarters. And Oregon should feel really good about that side of the ball. That's coming up next. Coming up right now, FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Did you bet Oregon minus 25.5 in this game? Bet you felt good, up 28-3. Lo and behold, how about the 25.5 point hook? That's how good FanDuel is, man. That line was sitting there. You're going, man, if I have UCLA plus 25.5, I'm covering. Well, UCLA covers the number, but Oregon wins the game. That's what matters at the end of the day. It was never really in doubt. Got close there for a little, but I was never incredibly worried. And you can just get everything you want over at FanDuel. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com, that's the place to go. College football, NFL, MLB postseason's around the corner. They've got everything over at FanDuel. Literally everything. Go check them out at FanDuel.com. Defense, awesome again. So that's 6 straight quarters where the defense is not allowed a touchdown. Now, you got to be careful because some places, Georgia, had a streak like that and then gave up 30 points and a half. People are saying that Kirby Smart isn't any good without Dan Lanning. If you take that comment as serious, I can't help you. I really can't. But I made that joke earlier on Twitter. I thought it was kind of funny. I didn't know if you all saw it. So Oregon's defense played exceptionally well is the fundamental point we have to make here. No touchdowns allowed. I was hoping going into this game that Oregon's defense would play exactly like this. Ethan Garbers, 12 of 20, 118, 2 picks, left with an injury. I'm not glad he got injured. I'm glad why he got injured. And that's that Oregon's defensive line and linebackers as a whole, great to have Jeffrey Bossa back, were dominant. They controlled the game. Bruins, 2 yards a carry. Now that factors in sack yardage, but if you take out the sack yards, it's 19 carries for 65 yards. That's just over 3 yards a carry. That'll do, donkey. That'll do. So, defensive line shuts down the run. 2 picks. Shout out to Evan Stewart and Tysheen Johnson for flipping the momentum in the game a little bit. Again, I wasn't worried about Oregon, but was I like, kind of need a little bit of juice over there. I gave him a little bit of juice in the second half. This is the 3rd straight game that a quarterback against this Oregon defense has put up ugly numbers. Ugly numbers. Because remember, Maddox Madsen, Boise State, under 50% completion. And Giovanni McCoy, Oregon State, wasn't particularly effective in the passing game. This secondary is better than last year. Returners have improved. Newcomers are making an impact. That much is abundantly clear. So I love the way this defense played. A couple years ago, if you recall, there was a historically bad season rushing the passer. I don't think we're ever going to see that again as long as Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy are in charge because the defensive line looks really good. One of the penalties that Oregon had in the second half, the illegal hands to the face on Jamari Caldwell, he's dog walking the guy back into the quarterback and he hits Garber's arm and knocks him out of the game. Again, I'm not happy Ethan Garbers got hurt. I hope he's okay. He made some really nice throws in this football game and his receivers didn't always help him out. But the defensive line was pushing that front 5 around for the Bruins, and that's exactly what they were supposed to do. And I thought that was great. 4 tackles or 4 sacks plus 3 other tackles for loss. I wish that the NCAA would separate these stats. The whole point of calling something a tackle for loss instead of a sack is to indicate a tackle made behind the line of scrimmage, not on the quarterback in a passing situation. And yet, if you have 4 sacks and 3 TFLs, you get credit as a team for 7 TFLs. It makes no sense. I don't understand. But Jordan Birch had a sack, Mateo had a sack, Jeff Bossa had a sack, and then half a sack each for DJ Harmon and Justin Jacobs. Amari Washington had a TFL, by the way. It looked exactly like one of his high school highlight plays. There's something intensely satisfying to me when, I talk about recruiting a lot on the show, particularly over the summer, because that's what's newsy for Oregon football at that time. When a guy gets recruited, you see his potential, and then it plays out on the field. Like Tyler Turner has made some nice plays this year, did so late in the game when UCLA had to put their backup quarterback in. But Amari Washington just exploded through the offensive line, made a tackle on the backfield. I watched it, and my first thought was, that's exactly how it looked on his high school tape. And he appears to be the top guy from that 2023 blue chip interior defensive line group of guys that, I wondered all offseason, like, how's that rotation going to go? Is Aiden Breland going to play as a true freshman? No, the answer appears to be not. I tell you who has worked himself into the rotation in pass rushing situations. Thought this might be Elijah Rushing as a true freshman or more Blake Purchase, but Jaden Moore, one of the surprising moves up the depth chart. He's been in the last 2 weeks, and I didn't check his snap count against Boise State, but I've noticed him against UCLA and Oregon State when they think it's going to be a pass, and I love what this defensive line allows Tosh Lupoy and Dan Lanning and Chris Hampton to do defensively with mixing up their personnel and having pass rush specific packages. Jaden Moore has sprung his way up the depth chart. Good for him. Looks good. Had a quarterback pressure on a screen pass that forced a punt. So I love the way the defense played in this game. Again, the offense wasn't bad. Tez had a big day, shocker. Thought this might be an Evan Stewart day. I was wrong. He only had 3 catches for 9 yards, and yet you still got plenty of production out of the passing game. Gabriel, 31 of 41, 280, 3 touchdowns. Not the most explosive day, but there were a couple big plays, like the long touchdown to Tez Johnson, and then the last touchdown that Oregon scored. That was a zippy, and I mean zippy throw from Dylan Gabriel to Tez Johnson, who had 11 for 121 and 2 touchdowns. The Oregon offense, once again, lots of weapons all over the place. Justice Lowe, 2 catches for 7 yards. Love seeing that. But the tight end stepped up in the absence of Terrance Ferguson. I'll talk about that later. But the defense just continues to improve. By the way, if I asked you off the top of your head right now, be honest, can you tell me who led Oregon in tackles in this game? I would have gotten this wrong. I would not have been correct. The answer for today's game is, drumroll please, Nico Reed. And I was singing Nico Reed's praises all week long. You know why? Guy is playing the best football of his career. 6 tackles today to lead the way. Very dispersed tackle chart for Oregon. Betcher only had 3 tackles. And did you know he plays baseball? I think it was Zach Neal of the Believe in Oregon podcast that said Bryce Betcher plays baseball. Is this year's Bo and Tez are related? Factually accurate at this point. Get used to hearing it as Oregon plays nationally televised games this year, which is, in some capacity every single week. So I love the way that this defense played. They looked physical. They disrupted passes. They had a couple of interceptions. I would have been really disappointed if Oregon had not turned over the Bruins at all in this game. But you look up and Ethan Garbers has got 2 picks. And again, I'll read you his stat line. 12 of 20 for 118. No touchdowns, 2 picks. Defense allows 6 points in the football game. Great. I know that UCLA stinks. But that's how we wanted the defense to play going into this game. So I'm really, really happy with where this defense is at. First half against Oregon State was not great. Boise State game was not great. But the last 6 quarters of football, that's what this Oregon defense looks like. I think it's pretty clear Jeff Bossa being out there makes an impact. He had a sack and he had a pass breakup as well at coverage on J. Michael Sturdivant. Chef's kiss from Oregon's starting linebacker there. But I think he clearly makes an impact. And when he's just on the field, he makes plays. But I talked about the cerebral quality that he has. He's quarterback of the defense. They look really good. So shout out to Dan Lanning, shout out to Tosh Lupoy and Chris Hampton. I thought they did a really, really good job. They knew what UCLA was going to do. They were ready for it. They got pressure. They were disruptive, and they got off the field as well. UCLA on 3rd down in this game was, drum roll please, I'm not going to give you another drum roll physically. Wait for it. Man, how does 1 for 10 sound? 1 for 10. Take that every day of the week and twice on Saturdays. T-Ferg got hurt. T-Ferg took a shot from Bryan Addison. I love Dylan Gabriel, and I love T-Ferg. And I'm going to explain why I mentioned Gabriel there and what this could mean going forward. That's coming up next. Coming up right now, Game Time. They have a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you want. Game Time's got ticket for it. So you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. Their lowest price guarantee is indeed guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, and their ticket coverage is the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, that's LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So Ferg got hurt, took a shot. How's it not targeting? I don't know. What did I say a couple weeks ago when Oregon fans, rightfully, were upset at the Devin Jackson roughing the passer nonsense? I stopped expecting officials to be good or consistent a long time ago. I would like to credit this crew for handling the Trayshawn Holden fumble that wasn't correctly, letting it play out, and catching that there was a horse collar tackle. There was also a face mask, but that was probably something that caused a lot of Oregon fans to yell at their TV. They handled that correctly, and I appreciate that, because if the roles were reversed, I would want them to let it play out, because if it is a fumble, you cannot review a fumble that no. You can only say the runner was down after the fact. I'm explaining this horribly. I don't know why this is so hard to say. If it's ruled down on the field, you can't review that unless you have a clear recovery. But then if there's a scoop and score, you can't give that to the team. But if you scoop and score, you let it play out, you can then rule he's down over here. I don't know why that was so hard for me to get out, and I hope that was clear. If it wasn't, let me know, because I understand the rule. I just did a horrifically bad job of explaining. Anyway, so that's my little officiating rant. Why do I love Dillon Gabriel? Because Ferg takes a shot, and Dillon Gabriel goes and gets in Bryan Addison's face. Now, contrary to what Mark Helfrich said on the broadcast, Dillon Gabriel and Bryan Addison were never teammates. Bryan Addison sure looked like a guy that was playing for revenge, that wasn't necessarily thrilled with his departure from the Oregon program. Maybe that was this is me speculating here, but it certainly seemed with the way Bryan Addison played and the way Bryan Addison talked in this football game that he was one of those EA College Football 25 encouraged to transfer guys, which I never fully understood. Always thought he was a good player, and he showed why in this game. Oregon attacked him a couple times, but he also had the pick six, and then he was talking a little smack, and you know what? He's going home on the losing team today. So let that come for you if it will. The shot on Terrance Ferguson, I just wonder if that hit comes down. He's always been a big hitter, so maybe it does. Does that hit come down if they're playing Indiana? I don't know. I didn't watch every snap of the Indiana game, so I can't say for certain. I just wondered. But I love that Dillon Gabriel right away. I love that from a quarterback. You want him to embrace the leadership role, and for it to be more than just coach speak, that, yeah, he's really embraced that responsibility. That's what you want. Is, hey, you took a shot at my guy. That's not okay. You don't come at my guys like that. I love that from Dillon Gabriel. So, fingers crossed Ferg is okay. Is this a big deal? It's a deal. Okay? Oregon can survive without a tight end. However, Ferg is the most balanced tight end that Oregon has. Sadiq is great in the pass game, and they really wanted to get him the football today. He didn't have anything explosive, but did some nice things, and he's definitely seeing an increased role from a year ago, which is great. He had 4 catches for 37 yards. Would have had more if Gabriel hadn't had a screen pass batted down. 3rd and I think it was 15. They called the tight end delayed screen. Really good design. And Gabriel just had the ball batted down. If he doesn't, Sadiq might pick up the first down. So Kenyon Sadiq is really good. Is he all the way there as a blocker? No. Is he bad? No. But is he great? Also no. Patrick Herbert, more capable as a blocker. Does he bring the same element in the pass game? Not exactly. Is he capable? Sure. But either one of these guys right now is better suited to be a number 2 tight end, not a number 1. And there are a non-zero number of plays designed for the tight ends every single week in this offense, as there should be. T. Ferg's a dynamic playmaker. Sadiq can get explosive, and Herbert is solid, but certainly the least effective pass catcher of the three. So, would I feel dramatically different about Oregon if they don't have Terrance Ferguson? I have no idea what the extent of the injury is. He went out in the first half. They said on the broadcast he's not returning to the second or for the second half. So we don't know. We don't know as I record this show. And certainly as information rolls in, you can find it online or hit me up, and I'll keep you updated as best I can. But other people will know that and will have it far, far earlier than I will. So does Oregon want to have him back? Yes. You want to have your starting tight end. He's one of the guys that we were excited about to have come back. It stinks that he got hurt. It stinks that he could be out, but we don't know if he's out. He might be okay. It's probably going to be a concussion protocol matter where he has to clear that, and there are very strict standards of, hey, if you don't meet these bars, then you're not there. Would I feel differently in a big way against Ohio State if Terrance Ferguson isn't there? Not in a big way, though. No. There will probably be one or two plays throughout the game where we might end up saying, kind of wish you had T-Ferg there. But does it dramatically shift the dynamic of this Oregon offense? Are there plays that you can't call with the other two guys? No, you just have to mix and match a little bit more. And I think Will.Sign can do that, though it does tip your hand. Like if Sadiq is in there, more likely to be a pass. If Herbert's in there, more likely to be a run. So those guys have to continue to prove themselves capable of being balanced, and hopefully T-Ferg's able to come back. So it's certainly a loss. It's not as crushing of a loss if he is out for a couple weeks as, say, losing a starting offensive lineman would be right now. Like if Josh Connerly got hurt, that would worry me more. Does it have my attention? Yeah, of course. I want T-Ferg to be healthy. I feel better about this offense when he is in charge. Do I think that Oregon's offense is severely crippled without him there? No, I think they have enough weapons in the passing game to be able to overcome. But I certainly hope he's okay because he's an awesome guy. I've talked to him before. He's super humble, down to earth, pretty quiet, but a heck of a football player. And hopefully he's back on the field soon. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. There will be a Monday pod and a Tuesday pod. And yeah, you get how this works. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.